Hey Stuart, good to see you again. And you're still loving your backyard. I see that the spring has sprung, and you're having a good time, and you're shooting for an ongoing hangout journey. I hope you're not disconnecting so much from family and friends just by being in your favorite spot.
No, no, this is a great place to be, and it means I get to do some work and hang out with family and friends
Oh,
all at the
okay.
same time. So it's all good. It's all good. This is what
All
we
right.
love.
I thought you were thinking about the backyard as a tool, since I want to talk to you about tools. Yeah, and I can tell you, I've had so many scars. I almost want to focus this entire session on you being my psychiatrist here or something, because OMG, I just have to, scar after scar, and so many even executives and others who say, "Hey, just put us a new software and tool in place." I have experience also having worked in multiple industries, between the classic construction to manufacturing to product development, and recently also in digital quite a bit, and software specifically. This the realization that it's not just about shift to becoming easily accessible software or da da da, without realizing that internally as an organization, you need to, back to our
Mm.
one of our recent sessions on culture, you need to do a serious shift culture wise, and really get to a place where, my goodness, it is solving a real problem and not just following a hype, or, oh, I love this new gadget, or let's try this and that because Monday.com will make this streamlined, or, and without really, we're not saying which tool is better than others, but the whole idea is that just because you have thoughts that competition has done this or has done that, let me implement a software that's going to take care of all my pains. I just can't believe we're in 2025 and still some of that thought process prevailing. So help me out here, but not go nuts about it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's got worse over the last few years with the emergence of Chat GPT
Mhm.
and all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I've been in the software business for 30 something years at this point.
Wow.
And so I'm one of those guys that says buy the software. But and this is really important. Anybody that's selling you software that says, you buy software and magic happens, they're either fools
Yeah.
or they're lying to you. It's one of those two, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because magic does not happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
AI is not magic even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so if you want to use AI to predict project outcomes or something, then do you know what? It's not magic. You got to go get the data, clean the data, import the data, work the data, do all that kind of good stuff.
Correct.
You've got to change the way that you work, in other words,
Yeah.
to make sure that you are collecting the data, to make sure your people are putting in good quality data, because garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And so, whatever the business challenges are that you face, software can be a huge enabler, right? Our software, the transparent choice software in portfolio management, absolutely changes the game.
Yeah.
But if you buy even our software, it's right, magic still doesn't happen.
So
In
what's
order to
needed? So what is needed? Do you need to, like, there's some education needed? Is there like certain buy-in from executives? Is there a certain articulation of the business case that needs to be solid? How do you usually get folks and PMO leaders and some of the decision makers to really, do, like, we always talk about readiness, right? We talk about the organizational preparedness to take on
mm,
software and those kind of tools. What are the top things you think about usually, or you advise others to think about?
well, do you know what? This is going out to an audience of project professionals, so I
Yeah.
can answer it in two words: change
Yeah.
management,
Okay.
right? So whatever, when you think about change management is all about making sure that the organization is ready,
Yeah.
whatever that means,
Correct.
to deliver the value, right?
Yeah.
So the software tool is there to support that,
Yeah.
but it's the people and the processes that actually deliver the value, and the
Correct.
software just helps that. So as an example, one of the pieces of magic that we've got is this really cool AI thing that will take all your project data and will automatically schedule your projects in a way that your people aren't overloaded. Right. So PMO leaders spend hours and hours doing this, and as a consequence, it's so hard to do that they don't do it anywhere near as often as they should. Right. So
Yeah.
that's completely game changing.
Yeah.
But if you just put the software in and don't then make the commitment as an organization to follow the discipline, and okay, we've got a schedule for when we're going to start projects, not start projects early, not overlap projects, not ignore the timeline,
Right.
not then fail to put in our timesheet data, because if we don't put our timesheet data in, then the software is optimizing inaccurate data,
Yeah.
right? So those are all organizational issues. They're not software issues. They're organizational issues. So it's all about change management. We seem to talk about this a lot, right? It's about making sure that your
Yeah.
stakeholders, whoever they are,
Yeah.
understand what's in it for them,
Yeah.
understand what needs to change, that you have some agreed upon processes to do that, and
Right.
metrics, and that people get feedback when they're not doing it, and all that kind of good stuff. All the
Yeah.
normal change management stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Strong.
training, sometimes it's that simple, but
Yeah.
often you actually just you have to tweak things around whatever the solution is.
Yeah, a lot of strong intentional communication seems like it. And the topic of stakeholders, if we're not doing it properly, I don't know how many times we end up in the same place saying, "Hey, we got to nail that." So, are you saying tools? So tools always are a great place for higher efficiencies. They're a great place for transparency of information and so forth. Are you saying you're not encountering so much? So we talked a lot about the myth and the fact that it's not magic and maybe the preparation you labeled it was change management. I fully support that. I agree with it. There's this piece also about the actual take from the software. What are we going to get from the software, and possibly the resistance that can end up happening that prevent the software from creating the impact. Some people still in this day and age don't like so much that high exposure, that high transparency, and so forth.
Mhm.
Are you encountering also on that end of it uh, things that need to be, from a myth standpoint, that need to be
Yeah.
mental? Yeah,
Do you know at different levels? So when we're working alongside PPM tools, for example, you'll often see project managers who don't like it
yeah,
because they're used to just kind of doing it the way they want to do it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
suddenly you got a tool giving me a process that I've got to
yeah.
follow, and it's actually measuring me. I don't like that, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you get pushback
Yeah,
at the executive level. In portfolio management, which is where we live.
yeah,
You'll get executives who, frankly, have spent the last 10 years
yeah,
being the hippo, right? So being
that's
the
true.
the person in the room who can just shout and roar and bellow and get that project done,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
now they can't. What? I don't like that.
yeah,
But when so you've got to take them on the journey, and help them see that, okay, we may not be doing that project, but as an organization, we're getting 2 or 3 times more value out of the
yeah.
same resources, right?
Love it.
And
Yeah,
and and so when you have that discussion, then okay, I can understand why that's important, and I can live with it. So
yeah,
it really is just that change management thing again and again. Every time sometimes you will find people who just are going to dig in because they don't want it to change.
yeah. It sounds to me also like when you describe that, it's a risk-based exercise as well, where you have to balance this threat that some see in terms of transparency, da, 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 and trying to sell them on the upside, the opportunity,
Mhm.
which is, hey, just like you said earlier, the headache about trying to balance resources or look across multiple data points or da, 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 and doing this in an uneducated kind of a way versus the education and the learning you can get from the data used properly to help decisions, that's a
And
very different ballgame. Yeah.
and even going to that hippo in the room, right?
Yeah.
And who's that they're upset because they're losing their perceived power and
Yeah.
dominance, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
saying, well, and just having a conversation that says, yeah, but you're really frustrated because you don't know when your project's going to finish. You don't know whether
Yeah.
you're going to get the benefits, and you've no idea how much it's going to cost you in the end,
Yeah.
right? What you're going to get back in return is
Is.
I'm going to give you control over that,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to give you visibility and control over that. So
Yeah.
there's always something in there that can help you overcome the resistance.
All right.
But I guess the key message is that just putting software in isn't enough. You've got
Yeah.
to prepare the organization to use the software. The way my COO talks about it is, imagine someone who's spent 20 years putting shelves up using a screwdriver.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, using a hammer and nails, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And then you give them an electric screwdriver. If they use the screwdriver like a hammer, right, they're really not getting any benefit.
Very
So
true. It sounds we can end on the fact that tools are not magical, but they can create the magic if XY is in place from a prep standpoint, from an understanding, from communication of what are we expected to do and why,
yeah,
all the way to managing those stakeholders and the change management process. So it's super exciting. I
100%.
hope that
They are enablers. They are
yeah,
not fairy dust. Right.
yes.
That's
Good.
it.
Super.
Cool. Good topic. Like it.
I love it. Let's continue connecting the dots across the many topics that you and I keep tackling here. Fantastic. Enjoy seeing you.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thanks, Al. Take
Cheers.
care.